Think you understand how this business works, but you don't. You have to know the rules of the game and bend them. And you really have.
Season 2 doesn't open with explosions or betrayals. It opens with something far more dangerous: silence. A man sitting alone, waiting for a sunset he refuses to miss. That man is TL, a name spoken like a ghost, a presence avoided by Tommy for reasons no one ever explained. But this episode finally cracks open that silence and lets the light hit the truth. TL, or Thomas, is introduced inside an assisted living home, a place where days blend together and endings arrive quietly. But TL is different. He treats the sunset like a ritual, a final promise he must keep. His eyes don't just watch the sun, they cling to it, as if each second could be the last, and in a way, it is. Every evening might be the final time he sees it. Every glow of orange might be the last memory he carries. And every breath feels like it's borrowed. But there's another layer hidden under this. TL's obsession with the sunset might not be about death at all. It might be about love. Dorothy, his wife, was living in a different home, separated from him in their final stretch of life. Maybe they made a promise, a pact that no matter how far apart they were forced to live, they would watch the sunset together. Two hearts staring at the same horizon at the same time, pretending distance didn't matter. And then, she dies. The phone call comes like a blade cutting through Tommy's new world. He just became president. Oil prices are rising. The future finally feels like it's opening for him. And yet, in that single moment, everything collapses into something he cannot negotiate, cannot strong-arm, cannot outrun. The care home informs him that someone has passed away, Dorothy, his mother. The quiet storm he never prepared for. That's why the sunset at the end of the episode hits so hard. Tommy stands with Angela, frozen, staring at the dying sun just like TL did. The symbolism is brutal. Dorothy's life went down with that sun. The day she died, the sky died with her. It visually ties Tommy to TL, two men carrying the same grief, the same loss, the same weight. Whether Tommy likes it or not, he is his father's son. The attitude, the anger, the loneliness, it's all there. And the song that plays over the final moments, "Men Like Me Probably Die Alone," isn't just a soundtrack, it's a warning. It's a mirror held up to Tila and to Tommy. TL pushed people away his whole life. Tommy does the same. TL loved in silence. Tommy hides behind his power. TL is dying alone. Tommy might be next if he stays on this path. This is the ending most people missed. Not oil, not Cammy, not Cooper hitting a strike, but a family breaking apart in the softest, quietest moment of the entire episode, with a sunset marking the death of a mother and the return of a father he wants nothing to do with. Tommy begins Season 2 at the peak of his power, or at least that's what everyone assumes. Oil prices are soaring. The industry is preparing for what could be the biggest boom of the century. And after Monty's death, Tommy finally sits in the president's chair, the one seat he spent years circling like a wolf waiting for an opening. But power is never peaceful in the world of Landman. The moment you rise, something else starts pulling you down. Tommy walks into this new position with the confidence of a man who knows how to survive. He understands the game, the danger, the predators disguised as partners. Yet, for the first time, he's not dealing with field disasters or drilling failures. He's dealing with the legacy of Monty, a president who made enemies like most people make breakfast behind every handshake, behind every smile. There's a threat waiting to pounce. And Tommy knows it. That's why his conversation with Cammy is so important. He warns her, not gently, not kindly, but with the brutal honesty of a man who's been burned too many times. Monty didn't just run an oil company. He ran a battlefield, and the moment Monty died, all of his debts, grudges, deals, and dangers didn't disappear. They transferred directly to Cammy as the new owner. In Tommy's eyes, this isn't just business, it's survival. If Cammy slips even once, everything Monty built could crumble, and everything Tommy is trying to protect could go with it, but Cammy isn't Monty. She doesn't have his scars, she doesn't have his ruthlessness. And after the younger women, Lexi and Storm, mock her age and challenge her presence in the bathroom, something breaks inside her. Something sharp. Something she didn't know she still had. She walks into that luncheon not as a frightened widow, but as a woman who refuses to be hunted. She speaks with a tongue sharpened by insecurity and rage, showing the entire room that she can bite just as hard as Monty ever did. Tommy is impressed, but only for a moment, because underneath that moment of pride lies the one thing he's too smart to say out loud. This is the beginning of a power clash. Tommy wants control. Cammy wants respect. Both of them think they're doing the right thing. But in a company as large and dangerous as theirs, two different visions can burn everything to the ground. Tommy expects her to hand over any incoming deals to him. He wants to protect her. Or maybe he wants to protect the company from her inexperience. But Cammy is done being underestimated. The more she feels challenged, the more she'll want to prove herself. And that need to prove something is where disasters are born. Amid all this corporate tension, Tommy is also balancing something far heavier. The emotional storm brewing inside him after hearing about his mother's death. He's a man trying to look unbreakable in front of the world while privately standing on a fault line he refuses to acknowledge. He hasn't seen his father in years. He doesn't talk about him. He pretends TL doesn't exist. But grief doesn't care about distance. Grief pulls everything back to the surface. And this is where things get dangerous for Tommy. Because when a man tries to bury his past while juggling power, betrayal, and the pressure of an entire industry, he becomes unpredictable. He becomes vulnerable. He becomes more like TL, a man watching the sunset alone, slowly running out of time. Tommy may be president, he may be powerful, but in episode 1, the seeds of his downfall are planted, quietly. In the spaces between business meetings, arguments, and sunsets. While the world of Landman feels like it's collapsing around Tommy, someone else is quietly climbing, someone no one expected. Cooper. In season 1, he was the lost son, the kid drifting between failure and frustration, constantly falling short of his father's expectations. But season 2 flips his story completely. The boy who had no direction suddenly becomes the man who strikes gold. Literally. Cooper's storyline in this episode is more important than people realize because it represents something the show rarely gives out. Hope, real, life-changing, earth-shaking hope. After being leased the land he believed held potential, Cooper sets up his own wells, his own equipment, his own operation. For once, it isn't Tommy's world. It isn't Monty's world. It's his. And when the drill hits oil, you can feel the shock ripple through him. 6,200 units, over 20% oil ratio, numbers that would make any investor drool. Numbers that mean Cooper isn't just lucky, he's suddenly rich. Not new truck rich, not pay the bills rich, but life-changing, generational wealth rich. 500 barrels a day, $39,000 every 24 hours, $10 million a year, a fortune erupting from the ground that everyone else ignored. In the background of his success, the show plays a song with the lyrics "Turn water into wine." It's not just soundtrack, it's symbolism. Cooper is transforming failure into fortune, a broken path into a destiny. And that transformation is important because it puts him on a collision course with Tommy, whether either of them realizes it or not. Cooper's first instinct after the strike is pure and human. He wants to tell his father. He wants to finally make Tommy proud. But this victory carries a shadow, the same shadow that follows every character in Landman. Nothing good comes without a cost. And Cooper's cost begins at the dinner table. To share his big news, he has to sit through a meal with Angela and Tommy, a meeting he hates before it even begins. The tension in the room is explosive, and when Angela loses control and destroys the place, Cooper's moment evaporates. His chance to speak disappears. The pride he wanted to offer his father turns into silence. And because this is Landman, silence doesn't stay small. Silence festers. Silence becomes distance. That's not the only crack forming. Cooper casually hints that Ariana's child isn't his. The line drops quietly. But it isn't a small detail, it's a fuse. The kind of fuse that blows up families, relationships, and futures. If Cooper becomes wealthy overnight while raising a child that isn't biologically his, conflict is inevitable. Doubt is inevitable. And doubt is poison. This episode paints Cooper like a rising star, but a rising star surrounded by storms. And the irony is sharp. The more success he finds, the more danger he creates. Because Cooper is no longer the son chasing Tommy's shadow. He's becoming something else. Something bigger. Something Tommy won't be able to ignore. Here's the part no one is saying out loud. Cooper's strike changes the balance of power. He owns his oil. He controls his wells. He now has money that can rival Tommy's entire world. And in a story built on land, loyalty, and legacy, that kind of independence is explosive. The father who pushed him away might now have to compete with his own son, and the son who finally found his purpose might soon realize that success attracts enemies he never knew existed.